there's a very intense teaching by the Piaseczner Rebbe Esh Kodesh for Chanukah that he said end of 1940. It's printed in his holy book Esh Kodesh, and it's on for it's at the beginning of the first year of the Warsaw Ghetto, and he's giving moral support to he would write down his drashot, what he was sermonizing to his Hasidim and to others in the Warsaw Ghetto. And there on Chanukah, the sermon for Chanukah 1940, Chanukah Tafshin Aleph, it was the point is based on the Al Hanisim or I think Lashkich Persech or Haner Talalu, was basically telling people, do not despair that we, the Jewish people, have gone through as bad, if not worse, situations in our history. And yet we, throughout the centuries, and yet we persevered, and our fire candle still kept burning. And so hold strong and stay, keep your, that life force going. He wrote that then in 1940. And then he continues writing, 1941, 42. Then there's a brief, then he stops writing at some point. It was one of the last, the people were just can you imagine how many people were just dropping, unfortunately, and also being deported to the concentration camps in those couple of years. His last entry of his manuscript, which was what happened was, there was an underground group of historians and archivists that were collecting written down eyewitness testimonies and other materials over those years, and for that there should be testimony for history's sake, for the world, after just know what's happened. And they filled up the airtight three big milk metal jug containers, big silent things, and they filled it up with manuscripts of people that people wrote down and different important documentations. I think there were 3 of them, and they buried them in the Warsaw Ghetto shortly before it fell in 1943, when Pesach 43, that the Nazis decided to give Hitler a birthday gift, or his birthday, October, what is it, 14th or something, 20th, I forget. And on October, April 14th, right? Yeah. And they buried them. And after the war in the 1950s, when they were rebuilding Warsaw, I think they found 2 of the 3 preserved containers, and that's how we have a bunch of documentation. I think the person who organized this, his name was Ziegelbaum, I think. In this container, one of these 2 containers, they found the manuscript of the Piaseczner Rebbe, and that is the book Esh Kodesh. So in his manuscript, so he wrote, at one point, there was no one more for him to sermonize, to give Torah to drushes. So many died. He was one of the last left. His last entry in the manuscript is a footnote to his Torah of 1940 that he writes, I think it's in 1943, or end of 42, beginning of 43. He writes in a footnote the following. This is 2 years later. He says, everything which I spoke and wrote here 2 years ago was relevant to then, 2 years ago. But now, after what we've been going through the last couple of years, I could personally testify that never in history have the Jews gone through more suffering ever before. And that there is no precedent, there's no comparison to the torture and the deaths and et cetera, that the Jewish people gone in, that as we've experienced now. That is his last entry. It's a few lines at the bottom. So if you open up the Esh Kodesh book, Sefer, now under Chanukah, you see that sermon, you'll see on the bottom, there's a footnote in bold letters, which is its addition. He is just saying. So, as we say Pesach, in every generation they stand up to us, each generation in a different degree and level. The bottom line is that our fire keeps on burning. That's our,